Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome to the extravaganza of a post-game, whether or not you are happy with the results or whether you're face down in the gutter after the Pittsburgh Steelers play. We're here gathering as sort of a support group. It's called the Steelers Hangover. It's brought to you by BehindTheSteelCurtain.com for all of your Pittsburgh Steelers needs. Your hosts are myself, Bryan Anthony Davis from BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, and the legendary Tony Defeo, also from BTSC. Tony, how are you?
I am doing well, Bryan. How are you? How was your trip back?
I tell you what, Tony is what Tony's doing right now is he is referring to the fact that I made my inaugural trip to my inaugural 2019 trip to Heinz Field yesterday, and I went with Dave Schofield, met up with Tony Defeo for the first time we ever met in person. It was like you could hear like "We Are the World" and the speakers around us as we embraced for the first time, and
literally,
yes,
he's not even kidding.
I'm like, Tony, I'm giving you a hug.
Yeah,
I'm so glad. But yeah, I got home at 5:15 this morning because, as you know, I do live in Maryland, so I'm a little bushed, but feeling good. And I'm going to bring this one up here too. Nap 1963 says, "Bad, you look good for getting home so late. I appreciate that." And I got to mention Mr. Nap 1963, a good fan of the show. Dave and I had a chance to hang out with he and his family and his friends in the Great Hall, and it was an absolute pleasure. It is so nice to meet more Pittsburgh Steelers fans and friends in our BTSC group. We hope to do it again. Next year too, as well. Dennis Sheridan, I love this. Bad looked awful cold arriving at the game. I had 7 layers. And then we drove home in the snow, and I'm like, I look at Dave Schofield and I say, look, I got to pull over. I got to get some of these layers off because I'm now sweating. So here's the deal. We're talking about a hangover, and we talk about that game did not go the way that we wanted. And Maxwell McCormick is asking for this. Bad, I need a pick-me-up, King. And that's what we're here for, because we are your Steelers support group. And that's a very important thing for us, to be together and celebrate and revel when we win. And when we lose, go ahead and take care of each other as well. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about this game. We're going to talk about the state of the Steelers going forward. I promise you, Maxwell, I'm going to pick you up. I'm going to pick all of us up and let you know what we're looking at going forward. Because, hey, this is a bump in the road of a very weird and unique season. And we've seen seasons like this. And one thing I'm going to say about this season so far is it is completely against the script. We had no idea whatsoever that we were going to be talking about guys like Devlin Hodges and Kareth White and even Deontay Johnson at this point. We thought we were talking about Ben Roethlisberger, James Conner, and Juju Smith-Schuster. So that's really what we're looking at. So there's so many things to talk about, but I want to talk about, once again, support of the show. And how do you support us? You ask us all the time. Well, you can support us by going and joining the live chat and just talking to us. If you want to go ahead and throw in some money in the super chat, it goes and pays for stuff like microphones, which we are now getting. I haven't gotten mine yet, but the other fellas have. It goes to go ahead and pay for contest, which we just gave away David DeCastro football as well. But it also gets you to the front of the line with your question, and we'll go ahead and answer a lot of your questions a little later on in the show. But the best way to support us is go ahead and, like Lance Williams always says, tune in and tell a friend and subscribe. And so we just ask you to go ahead and subscribe. Ring that bell so you get notifications and like this podcast. There's 45 on here right now. Give us 35 likes and let's get going. But here's the thing. The big thing is we're here to talk about the Steelers and what we need to do to go ahead and go forward. Hey, this season is not over. Tony, let me ask you this. With 2 games to go, are the Pittsburgh Steelers currently, if the season ended today, are they a playoff team?
Yeah, they're still in the number 6 seed. They really didn't damage their playoff chances that much by losing yesterday. But it was a sad dose of reality. They can't make those kind of mistakes and beat anybody. So hopefully it was a wake up call for them.
So, Erica J says this. She says, "Time to beat up on the Jets," and so that's what we're going to go ahead and look at. We're going to look forward, but we're going to get through what happened yesterday first. And the question is, right now, this is a playoff team. Got some gifts yesterday from other teams, and some of the gifts that we received were the Tennessee Titans losing at home to the Houston Texans, who they play again in Week 17. The Jacksonville Jaguars went to Oakland and beat the Raiders, which that means they're pretty much out. Arizona Cardinals beat the Cleveland Browns, so they're out. Not that they were a big threat, but these guys are out now. So you're really looking at 7 teams trying to get into a 6-team field. Adam Lewis says the Titans are favored more than 50% to go ahead and make it over the Steelers. Now, so this is where it gets a little tricky, and I'm going to ask for some help on this as well. But 2 games left for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You got to win those games. If you don't, if you win those games, you're in.
No, That's the bottom line to it. There's nothing keeping them out. If they win out, they're in.
So let's talk about the Steelers first. And when we're talking about the Steelers, we're saying they've got to go to New York and beat the Jets, or Jersey, the Meadowlands. It's not called the Meadowlands. It's MetLife Stadium. I understand that, but it's still in that area. And then we've got to go ahead and talk about what the Titans have to do. Now, if the Titans lose next week against the Saints at home, it's not over.
Nope.
Because they would have to really, if they win that game next week, that's not a big deal, as much as they've got to lose against the Texans. They've got to lose another conference game. So that's where it gets really weird. So Steelers, they went out, they're in. So they control their own destiny at this time. But here's the problem. And it's also the title of the show. Is the offense of the Pittsburgh Steelers playoff caliber? Or are they postseason worthy? And that's the problem. They showed some flaws, like Provoked Thoughts. So I like this. Duck showed some flaws yesterday, but if they game plan to what he can do well and he doesn't force the deep ball, we could win. OC has to game plan running the ball at least 65% of the time. And I believe I saw something up here from Michael Toole, and he is right too. We lost because we ran 15 times for 50 yards, and the Bills ran 38 times for 130. Bills played like we have been playing, and Fichtner put the game in Duck's hands, and we all see the result. That was a horrible game plan yesterday. This does not take the onus off of Devlin Hodges. Devlin Hodges had a bad game. But here's the problem. It's like this in war. It's like this in any game you play. If you get tipped off on something and you know something's coming and you can predict it, you can stop it. The Bills were tipped off on everything because the Pittsburgh Steelers, Randy Fichtner, they tip off everything. When you see Zach Banner and Johnny Holton come in the game, you know it's not going to be a pass. You know it's going to be a run. And when you go run, pass, and I credit Dave Schofield to a lot of this, because Dave has been harping on this for a long time now. When you see Banner come in, you pretty much know that it's going to be a run. So you're telegraphing everything. When you see that Wildcat come in here, I'm not saying scrap the Wildcat and put it away forever. But what I'm saying is you have got to go ahead and bring it in one time in the third quarter when you already have a game plan established. So it was really weird. Isaac Aguilera puts $5 into the tip jar and says, how do you dress 5 running backs and run 15 times? They set up Duck for failure. Look, they did. Like I said, it still doesn't excuse Duck's play, but they knew he was passing in those situations, and they could just sit back and wait for it. And I made this, I don't want to call it an excuse, but I made this case for Mason Rudolph too when he was playing. When you know what he's doing and you have a young player that is still waiting to go ahead and get established, it's a lot easier to go ahead and predict what he's doing and to be able to stop him. So when you go ahead and put him in a situation where you've got a young player that, with the lack of pedigree, really, at this point of Duck Hodges, then you know that you're going to be able to stop him. Michael O'Malley says this, and he is absolutely correct. 5 turnovers and lost by 7. The D is legit. Need the offense to mature. Tony, let me ask you this. Let's go ahead and take a look at the offense. And we've already talked about game plan, and I know you agree that the game plan was ridiculous. Yeah, I know you agree that they need to run the ball more.
Right.
And we agree that Devlin Hodges, whoever's put in that position, whether it be Mason Rudolph, whether it be Paxton Lynch, and let's not be pining for Paxton. Let's not be looking for a change right now. But let's go ahead and talk about that offense. Who's the biggest problem on this offense, or what part of this offense is the biggest problem?
I just think it's injuries, number one. But to your point about the game plan, is you got your horse running back yesterday. You got James Conner back, and you only as Michael O'Malley said, you only run 15 times the whole game. It doesn't make any sense. The game plan defied all logic. So I'm going to say injuries are the biggest factor, but your offensive coordinator, and I don't like to rail against the coaches, especially Fichtner this year with all the problems he's had to deal with, but it just defied logic to you're going against an elite pass defense with an elite cornerback in Trey White, and you throw 38 times and you run it only 15 times. It just did not make any sense. So I'd say right now, number 1 is injuries, and number 2 would be the OC for sure.
And I love how Dennis Sheridan says this: 3rd and 4th string rookie quarterbacks who are not up to NFL varsity play yet. That's kind of what the problem is here. A lot of people are saying this. We just saw it. I didn't read it, but we saw it from Knapp and Adam saying a lot of 8-man boxes in the last game. I would have really liked to see some audibles from the Duck. That's interesting as well too. Let's talk about the offensive line, though, Tony, and let's talk about somebody specifically. What's going on with Marquise Pouncey?
I don't know. As we talked about last week, it doesn't make any sense. I don't know if he's just getting old. I mean, this is his 10th year, and he has had some injuries in the past. Maybe he's just wearing down, but he can't continue to snap the ball back in the shotgun the way he has, and that affected the fumble at the on 1st and 10 at the goal line right before the half. I mean, you can't squander those kind of opportunities away with this offense playing the way it is. Every 1st and goal or every 1st and 10 from inside the 20, that needs to be treated with the utmost respect and care. You can't not score points there. If you're only scoring 1 touchdown a game, you can't give it. At very least you get 3 points out of that, and it's 7-6 at the half instead it's 7-3, and you're feeling deflated. So I don't know what's going on with Pouncey, but he's not at his best. As they pointed out, there's a lot of 8 and 9 men in the box now, and maybe there's just too many guys for them to block. I'm not sure.
And it's a different ball game if you go ahead and score just 3 there,
Right.
Because everything changes. That 3 changes everything. Then you have a chance to be up. What was the worst turnover Let's start with Duck. What was his worst interception? And I'm going to go ahead and say that slant pass that I thought Tre'Davious White was going to take all the way to the house.
Oh yeah, that's it. That's number one with a bullet for sure. I mean, that you're up 10-7, you gain control of the game after only having 64 yards in the first half of total offense, and you fumble at first and goal at the 10, and then you somehow gain control of the game. If you go down there and even if you kick a field goal, then you're up 13-7 going into the fourth quarter, and we've seen that time and time again with this defense against the Rams, against the Browns, against the Cardinals last week. You give them a 6 or 7 point lead, they're probably going to close things out. But to turn the ball over there, and that came one play after you snuck Hodges up the middle on third and short to get a first down. I mean, that was the most crippling turnover for him anyway, for Hodges. I think the most crippling turnover of the game was the one that occurred at the end of the first half. I think that killed them.
That was. I mean, Dave Schofield was so upset. I was sitting next to him during the game, and he was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" I mean, and he harped on it the whole game. It's like you cannot be in this situation and not just call that weird play, but Connor's never run the Wildcat and handed it off.
Right.
In the season, and he's handing it off to a guy who is not really capable of doing it. And
he's been shaky with holding onto the ball this year. Johnson, he's been very, very shaky with that.
Exactly. He really has. So, gosh, that was just a weird place. You kind of could establish yourself inside the 10. And especially, Jalen, that's a good spot for Jalen Samuels. A little past Jalen Samuels. There's so many places, but it just goes back to the offensive coordinator. Let me bring up Snowman here, who puts $5 into the tip jar. One of our biggest contributors the entire season. Thank you, Snowman. Time to bring back Ken Wisenhunt to run the office. He's a free agent. He is a free agent, and I would love to see a guy like Wisenhunt back because he is a very good offensive coordinator, and they just don't have an offensive coordinator. We also have another live chat that I lost here, and now Jesse George gives us $1.99. Fire all the coaches, cut Duck Fairweather fans. Hey, look, I'm not ready to. I'm going to say it now. Keep on going with Duck right now. Okay. We're not being fair weather on Duck. He had a bad game. He said, I had a bad game. I mean, a rookie is going to have a bad game.
Right.
But keep in mind, and it might sound like I'm making excuses for him, but keep in mind, he went up against a top 5 defense with a game plan that was absolutely ridiculous. And everyone knew what he was doing, and he wasn't up to it last night.
Right, and the coaches didn't help him out last night. That was clearly evident. You can't take a guy that he would average like 20 passes a game through yesterday. He was efficient. Last week he was 16-19. I mean, that's what you want from a young, undrafted rookie quarterback like that. And then to have him try to throw the ball over the field against a really good defense, it just defied logic. And yeah, we're talking about the coaches, and sometimes that's unwarranted. But last night, because talking about last night's game and blaming the coaches, that's not unwarranted. There's a reason for it today because the game plan didn't make any sense.
Michael Toole says Duck doesn't have the arm strength to play against a good defense. The jump balls to Washington don't count. Mason has the more upside and will probably start against the Jets. We will find out tomorrow. I don't think he's starting against the Jets. I don't think you should be playing musical quarterbacks like that. Because I mean the short leash, that's way too much. Let's talk about defense real quick. Maxwell really wants me to talk about how bad Edmonds was. On a great defense, I think right now Terrell Edmonds was a weak link on that defense yesterday. we had a few weak links yesterday on the entire team. If I'm going to go ahead and look at valedictorians, I'm going to say Cam Hayward had an amazing game. If I'm looking at the honor roll, I'm still throwing James Washington on there.
Oh yeah.
And I'm throwing TJ Watt on there. I know I'm missing somebody that I put in the article, but on needs improvement, I'm saying it's Fietner. I'm definitely saying it's Terrell Edmonds. I could actually put Steven Nelson. Steven Nelson had a nice interception. Too bad he didn't take that to the house, but he also kind of hurt us yesterday by he was playing very back and loose coverage, and that was a big problem yesterday as well. But I mean, and I said Pouncey as well, but Terrell Edmonds on that defense, I felt like he really helped kill that team. It was pretty rough.
Yeah, at the same time, though, you can only ask so much of the defense. I mean, I think, if you limit every team to 14, 17 points, you should win most of those games, even with this offense playing as anemic as it is. But it was a bad play by Edmonds on the touchdown to Tyler Kroft. So I mean, you have to call him out for that, and you have to say he needs improvement. But at the same time, look at the job they did on after the interception by White. He took it down to the 20, and they limited them to a field goal. So, I mean, this defense and the defense was victimized by Jordan Berry, the 22-yard punt that led to the other touchdown. So, I mean, there's only so much you can ask of the defense.
That's the other one. I'm going to go ahead and say, Michael O'Malley asked, "Bet, how come people were so mad about us losing to the Bills? We have a JV offense. Almost all the skill players are hurt. We lost by 7 and turned it over 5 times. A rookie quarterback had a rookie game. And you know what, guys? That's what it is. You still can't give. You still really can't give credit to. You really can't say that the offense is good because they were the weak link. The defense kept them in that game. And you got to go ahead, and I gave one of my worst grades to the offense yesterday that I gave because, I mean, 5 turnovers, 4 sacks. It just was not a good game, but a lot of that stuff was to how good the opponent was on defense. Let me go ahead and I'm going to address a few that I would want to just go ahead and say. Mango Masher says Matt Filer, that TD save. Wow, was that incredible? Talking about hustle on that. You mentioned Jordan Berry, 22-yard punt. That is worse. That's a turnover right there, a 22-yard punt.
Right.
Now, Duck's first interception was basically a punt.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that was on 3rd and long, and he launched that up in the air. It comes down as an interception. That's a punt. That's not as big a deal. Maxwell disagrees with you. He says, "No, Tony, this is on Edmonds." I thought Edmonds had a horrendous game. Mitchell Green says, "Do you think Sean Davis can and will come back and take Edmonds' spot?" I mean, he's played both positions. I think he's ready to come back. I'm thinking you might want to entertain that and see what he's doing in practice and what he can give you. And hey, if you have another piece of the puzzle, doesn't matter how late in the season it is, it's see what you can go ahead and do with it. Once again, you're listening to the Steeler Hangover, brought to you by BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. 10 new articles every single day. What I'm going to go ahead and ask you to do is go ahead, if you like the show, please subscribe, tell a friend. Go ahead and put it in your notifications by ringing that bell on the screen and liking the show, because that's really what we need. Edmonds is bad. Now, I will say that I kind of agree. I don't know if you're saying that I'm Edmonds because I'm BAD with the capital BAD, but I don't make what he makes. Kind of wish I did. I would love to go ahead and make that. I just saw something. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Michael Koziel. Do we accept 9 and 7 and no playoffs as acceptable now, I mean, it's a possibility. You know, it is definitely a possibility that you go ahead and accept that that's who you are, because this is what your team is. Can your defense continue to carry you? They did everything they could to win that game. The offense could not keep it in. This very same team could go ahead and beat a Jets team, though.
Right.
And then all bets are off when you go to play the Ravens. Because you're probably not going to see Lamar Jackson in that game. I mean, it would be a mistake to go ahead and put him in that game. But we've talked about Wang Harbaugh in the past and how he can go. I mean, he might just do that. 8-8, I think, would be a disappointment at this point. Love to see them have a winning season, go 9-7, and work on next year, but we want to finish up this year, and anything can happen in the playoffs. But goes back to the title: is this offense playoff worthy and postseason worthy? And I don't think they are. I mean, it is just what it is.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you had Devlin Hodges throwing an important pass to Deion Kane with less than 2 minutes to go, into the end zone. And that tells you all you need to know about where the offense is in 2019, so, but it doesn't mean that they can't win a couple more games and make the playoffs. I mean, they've already established a formula for success, and that's relying on the defense and not being stupid on special teams. Well, special teams almost cost them last week, and it helped cost them last night. So if they can shore up the mistakes, then they could sneak into the playoffs. And I think that would be a great testament to what they were able to overcome in 2019 if they can just shore up these mistakes. It isn't a playoff offense, but it doesn't mean that they can't make the playoffs.
Chris Boyd says, wish we had the other Edmonds. We do have the other Edmonds. It's Trey. No, you're talking Tremaine, who is, he is super, isn't he? I mean, I really saw him dominate in that game yesterday. They really did not have an answer for him. Just saw something really interesting up there. As I go ahead and look through, Knapp says 9-7 is a very good record for this team since the Minka trade. I've been hoping that the draft pick they traded for him is 11 or higher, and it definitely is going to be higher. I mean, you're still looking at maybe an 18 to 20. Robert Mullins says duck is cheap. You get what you paid for. This is what I wanted to bring up. As you know, I got in at 5:15 this morning, and I did sleep a majority of the day. Called off work today. And Andres Ross A says, any educated guess why the Steelers released Tevin Jones and bring in another wide receiver practice squad player? I'm not aware of this. I just did not get a chance to go ahead and see that. I haven't been on anything today. Tony, do you know anything about this?
I don't know. I don't know why they released Jones, but I know he did have at least one important drop yesterday over the middle. He dropped the pass at near midfield. So I mean, he has no he's nobody you can give the benefit of the doubt to. He's Tevin Jones. He really hasn't proven anything. So I don't know what player they brought from the practice squad, but I'm sure it's going to be another case where you're relying on somebody that you didn't think you would have been relying on a few months ago.
Amara Darboh is his name. Darboh came to Pittsburgh on November 17th as the Steelers were reshuffling the wide receiver core when Switzer went out. He was with Seattle, and he signed with Tampa Bay. Has 8 catches this year. Actually had 8 catches last year as a rookie with Seattle. So Amara Darboh is a new wide receiver on the team. That kind of surprises me because I didn't think Tevin Jones was that bad. But there you go. That's a cool name, Amara Darboh. Kind of think they need to bring in a tight end. He was Michael Toole says he was a former 3rd-round pick, big and fast from Michigan. Captain Underpants. Tony, bad. Can Juju fix the offense? I kind of think
he couldn't hurt.
I kind of think he could. So the problem is I don't see him coming back. Maybe for the playoffs, I see him coming back, but that PCL is a lot like what. Remember towards the end of his career when Troy had that rough season because he was playing with that PCL injury, and it's just that needs time to heal. But and they Lance and Jeff talked about this last night on the post game. Yes, I listened, and Bad was being bad and playing hooky. That was funny, Lance. I did call off. You don't want me working being that groggy, do you? But Lance and Jeff mentioned this. They're like the fans are getting tired of Juju, and because he's hurt this year a lot. But they're getting tired of him being hurt, but the antics, and maybe it's disconcerting to some, with the going 104 miles per hour and putting it on Instagram, dancing instead of going. I mean, now you're not going to go ahead and send a lot of injured players on road trips. I know they did with Ben Roethlisberger, but they don't send all their players on road trips when they're hurt. So he didn't go to Arizona, but he was at Penn State dancing. And I think a lot of fans, and you know me, I'm one of those that I want players to have personal lives too. But I don't want them out dancing and going crazy when they've got a knee injury. I mean, I kind of don't want that. But that's just me. They need to go ahead and get him back. And they really, because that'll open up things. Because I think we found that you've got some guys like Deontay Johnson and James Washington that could be very good on this team. But we kind of need to see Juju Smith-Schuster back and completely dedicated to the team. I think he's dedicated, but I want a more focused Juju right now. Frank V says this: I would not open the checkbook for Juju. It's going to be very interesting because next year is going to be very big for Juju Smith-Schuster, very big for James Conner. TJ Watt will have an extra year, but since those guys were picked in the second and third round, next year's kind of the end for them. So there you go. Andres Ross says, if we were winning, nobody would care what Juju was doing. Let's be real and move on. Andres, I disagree with you because we have been winning. We've won, 7 out of the last 9 games. So we've been winning, but you need to have them on the field, and that off-field stuff is a problem because we've seen what happens when players get way outside of the realm of football and start working on their own brands. And we saw it with Le'Veon Bell in his rap career. We saw it with everything that Antonio Brown was doing. And I think Juju is actually a high character guy, but there's some things I don't want to see. Like I said, these guys, I know these guys do stuff on their off day. I have no problem with that. But what I have a problem with is when you're doing something, when you're injured and you're doing something that could aggravate it. That's what I have a problem with. So, I mean, we can't move on with it. I mean, and the team has been winning. That's the bottom line to it. They just lost yesterday and broke a 3-game winning streak. So I don't know if he's going to be a Mr. Third and Fifth 2.0. I really don't think of that.
No, I think his character, it's just a matter of him I guess maturing a little bit, because his character speaks for itself. You can't say the same thing about Antonio Brown. Retroactively we're finding out the kind of character person he was all the way back to college, which you don't hear about those kind of things from Juju. So I think it's just a matter of him maturing a little bit, and uh, realizing that maybe social media isn't always his best friend.
Well, here's this thing: is Juju not allowed to have a life? Ask Michael. As long as he's rehabbing and doing what the coaches and doctors are telling him, then he can go do whatever he wants. But come on. There's a difference. And Tate Boy says, did he get hurt dancing? I don't think he got hurt dancing, but that's not the thing. But you have outside behavior. Maybe I'm a little more old school, but you're doing this kind of stuff when you could get hurt dancing like that when you're rehabbing. There's a different way to do it. Dennis says, seriously, do you think Juju would risk injuring his knee more? You know what? When you're injured and you're going 104 miles per hour in a vehicle and putting on Instagram, that just does not show good sense. And it doesn't. I still think he's a high character guy, but I think there's some more maturity and that needs to be found here. And I just feel that you're in a position at that point when football is not the highest priority when you have all these other things going on. I have no problem with Juju gaming. He makes money that way. That's how he makes revenue. I don't think he has a bad head on his shoulders, but there are a lot of fans that are out there that are getting tired of it, and I'm bringing that up. But
well, that's what I mean by social media perhaps not being his best friend. He doesn't have to put everything. And I realize he's 23 or I think, or 22, 23. And, people that age put everything on their social media platforms, but, he doesn't have to put everything he does on social media because, as they say, out of sight, out of mind. If he wouldn't put everything online, people wouldn't have a reason to be sick of him, because eventually people get sick. Eventually every player wears out his welcome and stuff like that, because fans, they only think of them as football players and not, as you said, having lives outside of football. So, hey, your average fan thinks they should be thinking about football 24/7. So if he would just not put it on social media, he might be better off.
Like I said, I mean, Wes, I appreciate that, and I have no problem you telling me I'm wrong, and that's the thing. But my problem with it is going 104 miles per hour and bragging about it. First of all, you're bragging about breaking the law, and that's dangerous. And I tell you what, oh gosh, I tell you what, I mean, that is getting a little full of yourself, and I think you need to reflect. And this next one, I agree with this. Bad. What were some of the immature things you did at 23? Were you ever out late partying the night before work? Just take it. Yeah, I did that stuff, and that's fine. And I didn't have Instagram back then. I didn't have cell phones. I didn't have anything, and that's fine. And I want to go ahead and reiterate, I am not one of the guys that was going out and saying that this guy is bad and needs to be gone. I'm just saying that a lot of people are getting tired of it, and they're getting tired of these things. But I would like to let them have a little more focus. At 23, I did some crazy stuff, and we've talked about it, and that's true. Did it hurt my work and what I was doing at the time? Yeah, sometimes it did. I also was in a position where I had somebody that took me aside and said, you need to calm down a little bit too. So there you go. And Wes says this, and while I may disagree with you overall, I can at least understand where you're coming from, and that's all I'm asking. That's it. I mean, this is one that we could completely disagree on, but the bottom line to it all, one thing we agree on, most of us, is that Juju's valuable to this team. We want to have Juju on this team, and I would like him to take less risks, especially when he's hurt. There you go. Except the 104 mile per hour, when I saw that, I'm like, and I'm 48 now, so I understand. I was like, come on, we can't be doing that. I mean, yeah, there are vehicles out there that go upwards of 200 miles per hour. And this is going to be, gosh, you know what? This is going to be a rotten thing to say, and I'm going to go ahead and say it. How'd that work out for Paul Walker? You know what I mean?
Right.
Look, I have no problem with somebody having fun, but you're not only risking lives when you're going that fast, you're risking other people's lives. And it could be a family member of me. It could be a friend of you. That you know what I mean? What's Kathy say here? Bad. Bet you don't have to go back to 23 to fill that bill. Gosh, I'd like to see 23. I'd probably do things again. Rugarel says, also, Bad, you're not a star receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Standard is the standard. You know, you know what? I mean, this is something that we can go back and forth on. So I did not have clarity, Bo, whether he was a passenger or not, but that's just as much risk. Then really don't be in a car going 104. I mean, so you're risking a lot, but maybe that's just where I am now. But let's get back to the Jets and Steelers and the Bills and Steelers. And Dion Murray wants to know, is Duck playing? Is Duck going to go ahead and play against the Jets, or is it going to be Rudolph? You know, Tony, what's your thoughts on that? Because we talked about it before. I think it's going to be Duck.
Yeah, he didn't have a great game. There's no question about it. But he still, at the end, he had the poise to get them down there twice, and he had a chance. As bad as he played, he still had two chances to tie the game in the last 2 minutes. And if you remember the way Mason Rudolph looked in that Browns game, he looked completely lost. And I didn't see that from Hodges yesterday. So I think you have to give him at least the benefit of the doubt for next week and at least start him. Now, if he has an atrocious first half and you're down by 7 or 10 or whatever, and your offense is doing nothing, well, your season's on the line, and maybe you make a change then. But yeah, he has to start the Jets game as of right now. I don't see any way you could put Rudolph in after one bad game by Hodges.
Donald Nolan says, Bad, sometimes you ramble on and forget Tony is there. Let the man have some time to talk.
Oh, well, I wanted to answer his question.
He's right.
He asked me if I'm from Pittsburgh. Yes, I'm from Crafton. So he asked me a question and I forgot to answer it. I'm sorry, Donald. Yes, I'm from Crafton, PA. At least that's where I live right now.
But he's right. Donald's right. I do ramble on, and I do dominate the conversation sometimes. So that's something I will go ahead and work on as well. So one thing I want to bring up from yesterday's game, and this will probably get people rallied up too. We've already talked about the game, Tony. We talked about the fact that you were up against a number 2 defense, a top 5 defense in different categories, and it's a rookie quarterback. We talked about the scheme being rough as well. But here's the thing. I'm sorry. I do get off track too, and you know that Bad's mouth goes 125 miles per hour. Yeah, you're not kidding. Tate Boy, thanks. Erica J, thanks. I appreciate that. Tony and I are a team though, and we've been doing this together a couple of years now, and we have the greatest respect for each other. And I tell what do I tell you all the time, Tony? Reel me in anytime you want.
I can't though, because I'm what's his name? John Oates, and you're Daryl Hall. So
no,
John Oates never sang. He just played the guitar when he had a mustache. That's me.
I tell you what, Jeff Hartman still blames John Oates for the Steelers' loss to the Jaguars in the playoffs because he sang the national anthem, and that hurts me. I
there you
am.
go. That's why I can't dominate the conversation. I have to keep my mouth shut. It's bad karma.
Hall and Oates are playing in Hershey, Pennsylvania, coming up in February, and I'm dying to go ahead and get tickets for that. And my wife doesn't want to go to that show with me, and I'm like, I gotta go see them. So that's my thing. I love this. I just lost this. Maxwell McCormick, bad. Don't kill us. So I'm like Duck now. Ollie Alarobi, I hope I have that right. Bad is the type of teacher to take your cigarettes away and smoke it after school. Love you, man. And here's the thing. I don't smoke and I barely drink. And after my 2 a.m. comments, I think I've been accused of loving, like somebody put on the live chat. I never knew this was called that, the booger sugar. And I'm a lot like CM Punk. I'm actually very straight edge in a lot of ways, except for my mind. I guess I've got a dirty mind. I appreciate. Hey, look. And I am the first one to go ahead and say that you could rip on me more than anything. And guess who's accusing me of that? It's this guy right here getting bet with Bo. And I love him. Love it. Hey, this is what we do. We have fun together. We talked about the Steelers and the Bills. We're going to look forward. So we know where we're going with this. I still think this team has a chance. The offense right now not playing to the caliber of a playoff offense, and they don't belong there. But we do need to go ahead. Frankly, I don't even know what that means. But
it means a troll, apparently.
Okay. So, but we know where they need to go, and I think it starts, like you said, Tony, with the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and he just has to be smarter with the game plan. I mean, we've seen how this team can succeed in 2019, like we talked about earlier. It's with defense and making plays on special teams, and when the offense gets an opportunity to score, don't screw it up, don't turn it over. And if you do that, like they were saying on the sidelines after during the Browns game, the first Browns game, the disaster of a game, just don't turn it over. Just get the ball back for us. We'll score. I think that's how good this defense is capable of being at times. And if you just don't, if you don't sabotage yourself, you can have a chance to win most games. They turned the ball over 5 times last night. The punter was horrible, and they still had a chance to tie the game at the end. What does that tell you? It tells you if you don't shoot yourself in the foot, you have a chance to do some good things most games.
Tony, I agree with you completely there. Bad, did you hear Juju say he was ready to play against the Bills? Asked Ali. I don't know. Did you do that? Did you hear that?
I did hear that, and he did say he was ready to play, but he re-aggravated his knee during practice, so that's why he was ruled out for the Bills game. He practiced last week and he hurt him and he re-aggravated the injury, so that's why he didn't play against the Bills.
Tate Boy, Bill Smith says this. I think somebody else mentioned it. Definitely, I think we missed Munchak too. Jesse George too. Let me pull up Jesse George. We were missing Munchak 100%. Everyone was talking about Sean Starrett, how he had worked with these guys and he was ready. But I mean, how much credence do you put to that, Tony? Because I think this offensive line and this running game, and he was the running game coordinator, I think they missed some big time. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tony.
I mean, it just seems hard to, I don't know, because you have 2 Pro Bowlers or 3 Pro Bowlers on the line. It's a veteran line with the exception of Filer. I can't imagine these guys just got so bad over the course of an offseason when their coach left, and the Broncos offensive line isn't doing that great this year. So I'm not sure if it's that or if it's just the fact that again, most opposing defenses, they don't have to fear the offense, so they're putting 8 or 9 men in the box, and I think there's usually 1 or 2 more guys than they have to block. So I think it's more that than it is the coaching. That's just my opinion on it.
Okay, so here we go. We are going to go rapid fire here. And Tony, I'm going to have you answer most of them. And I love this one here right now. Comment on this one. I'm going to show up to the Steeler home office if we run the Wildcat again, Tony. That's Wes.
After last night, that was my least favorite play of the year. I agree.
And Dennis Sheridan is going to go with him. He already said that. Answer this question. Damien Perry. What the fire truck is up with Pouncey in these low snaps?
Maybe there's an injury we just don't know about, because it doesn't make any sense that he would forget how to snap. He would pull a Steve Blass and just lose control and not be able to have accurate snaps at this point of his career. It just doesn't make any sense, other than there has to be some kind of injury.
And it was brought up earlier in the live chat. He is ranked 36 out of 36 centers in the NFL right now, which I don't think he's having a horrendous season, but there's some things that have been showing up in the last couple of games that have been really rough.
Well, go ahead.
No, you're good.
You go back to the Dolphins game. I mean, Rudolph's first interception early in the game, he was pushed all the way back into Rudolph. I mean, that helped cause that interception. So this has been going on all year.
Ruga Rel 724. Do you think we make a splash in free agency like maybe the O-line, Tony?
No, I don't think they're going to have enough cap space to make any kind of real splashes this year. At least not right now. It doesn't look like that. It doesn't look that way right now.
Dion Murray says he was ready to play, but he re-aggravated the knee. That backs up what you said, Tony. I love this. I made mention to this. Tony, can you picture Wes and Dennis hooking up and going to the Steeler home office like two renegades? And we want to live stream that. So yeah. Tony will send you there and you live stream that. Go with Dennis and Wes if that happens.
That's right. I can definitely see Dennis doing that. I can definitely see him being the ringleader for sure.
If Dennis came into my office, I would listen to him. I would definitely listen. I want to be on Dennis's good side. And but that would be a great team. We talk about Hall & Oates being a great group. There you go. That would be a fantastic dynamic duo. Right. Dennis and Wes going to the home office.
Wes could reel him in. He could keep him on the up and up.
You're asked, Tony, where's your microphone by Pops in Control 2? Neither one of us have one.
Right here. Walmart special.
We are going to new microphones. That's something that the other guys have gone to. It'll be a couple weeks for me, but I should be having one. The sound quality is so much better. I will tell you that. So those are some of the questions. There was one that I missed and I can't find it, but it's asking if we make a big splash in free agency with an O lineman last year, and I don't know who to credit that for, so I do apologize. Snowman says cap space is about $5 million next year. Tony, what are your thoughts there?
Well, like I said, they're going to have so many other people they have to worry about, not just next year, but in 2021. I mean, you have TJ Watt coming up, you have Juju coming up, so there's going to be a lot of questions they have to answer as far as the players they have on their own roster right now. So making a big splash for an O lineman, I mean, they have so much money invested in the line as it is. I don't see it. You have to hope that some of these younger guys can like a Zach Banner can develop into or a Shooks can develop into future starters for them.
Here's one that I did lose. It's Donald Nolan. We know Donald's from Latrobe. So Tony is the only member of BTSC from the Pittsburgh area. Is that true?
I don't think there's too many. I know you and Jeff and Dave are from Maryland, and I know Neil Coulong when he did it, he was from Minnesota, but then he moved here. I don't know if he moved back or not, but there aren't too many. I'm more like the John Wayner of the group. I'm the only one from Pittsburgh.
John Wayner, there you go. John Wayner, there's a guy. When he came up, I was just loving that dude. There you go. Lance is from PA, but he lives in Michael say Lance is from PA, but he lives in California now. I'm from PA. I'm from Johnstown, which I talk about all the time. So I grew up. I mean, and when we came about, we were growing up just getting into it when the Pirates were winning the World Series in '79 and the Steelers were winning. All those, so it was really awesome. Jesse George, check this out. I live about 10 miles outside of Johnstown, PA. Tell me where. I'd love to know. Jeff is originally from Wheeling, West Virginia, which is pretty much PA. I mean, it's really close. Dave as well. Dave grew up in I believe he grew up in Western Maryland, which is really close too. So there you go. I'm not sure where some of the other writers are from, but that's really interesting. Where did you go to high school, Tony? I know you're from Crafton, but what was the name of your
I went to Langley High School, Pittsburgh Public School District. It's now a K through 8, so it's no longer a high school.
Okay, Jesse George, we got to talk, man. You're from Beaverdale. I am Richland High School, class of '89. And the reason I bring up that is because you're from Forest Hills High School. And the Richland Rams had a fantastic season this year. Once again, they lost in the semifinals to Southern Columbia, who went on and won the championship this year. But the Richland Rams had a fantastic year, and they are coached by a Forest Hills grad, Brandon Bailey, who his father was and still is, I believe, Don, the longtime legendary coach of Forest Hills High School too. So that's you talk about being from Beaverdale. That's really interesting. But yeah, I'm Richland High School, class of '89, and I love talking about that area. And we had a chance to talk to Nap 1963 and his friends and family yesterday at the game, and those guys are from the Johnstown area, so it was like old home night for me. I really loved it. Do want to bring up something about last night's game, Tony, and it's really interesting. I don't know who was at that game, but I'll tell you this. The Bills fans, Bills Mafia, was there in full force, and I'm sure you saw them in the you saw them in the parking lot. They were crazy inside the stadium. Now, a lot of people were like, how could they go ahead and let that many Bills fans in? And here's the thing about that. If you were when the team was 1-4, if you're a season ticket holder, you were getting rid of your tickets at the end of September and early October. And that's why they took over. Now, I will say this, and if I offend anybody, I do apologize, but I have been going to Steeler games for 35 years. And I will tell you this, I've seen Patriots fans, I've seen Ravens fans, I've seen all kinds of fans roll in. I've seen Eagle fans roll in there. But I will tell you this, the Bills fans were the most obnoxious fans I have ever been around in stadium. And they have a team to back them up right now. But I would probably think that they were the most obnoxious I've ever been around.
Well,
go ahead.
I mean, they're high on the Bills right now. I mean, they're passionate because their team hasn't done anything in such a long time. I mean, it's picture the Steelers fans in the early '70s. So that's what they're doing. That's what they're experiencing right now. They're experiencing a team that it's been one of the laughingstocks of the league for 2 decades, and now they're winning again, and they're only 3 hours away from Pittsburgh. So I think that explains a lot of what happened last night. I think Steelers fans are probably kind of jaded right now because they've had so much success over the years.
I tell you what, it was. I do want to go see a game in Buffalo, and hey, that actually could happen in a couple of weeks, possibly. You might actually see that if the Bills beat the Patriots and somehow take the number 3 seed. So that is not out of the realm of possibility. But next year, if the Bills remain a second place team, they will play the Steelers next year. because both will end as second place teams. So there you go. That could be something that could happen. I want to go to that. I want to go to a Bills game as a Steeler fan and see what's happening up there with guys jumping off RVs into flaming tables like the Dudley Boys. So, those guys are pretty insane. And as I showed with my Juju comments earlier, I'm becoming a crotchety, cranky old man.
Well, I don't think that applies to that. That just means you're not insane. Not liking that means you're not insane. It has nothing to do with age.
Yeah, that's one thing. I mean, you look, if you want me to dive onto a flaming table, you would have to put up at least 10,000 in the live chat, and I would do it. If you guys come up with 10,000 in the live chat, I will go ahead and dive onto a flaming table.
That's right. We all have credit cards to pay off, so that now you're talking.
There you go. And my wife is going to kill me when she hears that comment. And but right now, Jeff Hartman, his ears are like, whether he's watching the show or not, there's bells going on in his head, and he's like, "Wow, we gotta live stream that." So we would live stream it if we could get $10,000 in the live chat, but it all goes to me and to my insurance premium. So when that happens, so Kathy says, Kathy, a great fan of the show. Thank you, Kathy. Somewhat cheered hanging with BTSC fam. Thanks, guys. We had so much fun there yesterday, Tony. That was a blast. We're going to do it more next year. We're gonna. I feel like we've got a friend for life with NAP 1963 and everybody else. So it's so fun to hang out. We're going to be doing it a whole lot more next year as well. So definitely, if you get a chance, we'll plan a game. We'll do it a little bit better. We'll plan a huge tailgate, and we'll do that next season as well. Darren Dalton, I'm a big WWE fan, so bad I got you if you got a question and whatnot. Tony and I are both wrestling guys, and remember, Tony and I are the heels of BTSC, and I believe you're the enforcer, Arn Anderson, of our group.
Yes, but if you decide to do this, I'll be your heel manager for that. So I'll make sure everybody stays away, and if anybody messes with you, I'll hit them with a racket or whatever.
Because Jeff Hartman called me my first season with the Steelers, called me the Ric Flair of BTSC, and that's something I already appreciated. So I will tell you this. Woo! With that being said, Tony, we've got the Jets coming up. We don't have a whole lot of injuries to speak of. We just have to get the injuries taken care of, get guys back on the field. But luckily, in a hard-fought game yesterday, we did not get into a situation where we had a lot of guys limping off the field. So that's a really good thing. So that's said, we talked about injuries. Talking about the Jets game real quick. I know we're going to be doing the Steeler preview, but let's get your preview for the Jets game, Tony.
They just have to go back to what they were doing before last night. Just take care of the football and let the defense control the game for you and win it. Most of the scores for them are going to be like 17-10, 16-10. You just have to find a way to be the team that scores 16 or 17, and the best way to do that is to be efficient on offense and don't kill us, like Mike Tomlin said. Just take care of the football. And I'll just say one last thing. As bad as everything's been with the offense and as good as it was last year with the offense, if they beat the Jets next week, they go into week 17 in a better position than they did last year when they needed to win and they needed help. So if you take care of business next week, there's a lot of things that can happen in week 17. Even if you don't beat the Ravens, you can still make the playoffs. So take care of these lousy Jets, and then we could talk about week 17.
I will go ahead and I want to say this. We were joking about Knapp was joking earlier about Lance being the WWE type hater of the group if we're the heels, and Frank V was saying how much he loves Lance. And I tell you what, if you get a chance And Frank V said the hater is turning into a homer, though, which we saw that happen the other day. You get a chance, go back and listen to Lance's podcast as well as Dave and Big Bro Sco. Jeff Hartman. Those guys are fantastic. But my favorite night of the week is Friday nights to turn on. Yeah, I said it, with Lance Williams. He does tell it like it is.
He's the Stone Cold Steve Austin of the group.
He's
no BS. There's no BS. He comes right out. He doesn't look at the audience. He's coming right down for the ring, and he tells you like it is.
Yeah, I you know what? I'm wondering, am I really the Ric Flair of the group, or am I more of a Rowdy Piper of the group? We need to think about that. But that's something we could talk about next week. In the off season, maybe we'll have an entire wrestling show. How about that? Snowman just gave me $2. He got $50 of my 10,000. LOL. I don't think we're really going to. Oh man, I'm going to be in trouble if that happens. Raise your horns. Bryan needs to figure 4 Randy Fichtner. I tell you what, I kind of want to. Remember when I said a few weeks ago, no soda for you, and I went off on a rant on Randy Fichtner. And I did threaten to fight.
Baker
Mayfield. And first of all, that's the stupidest thing ever, because I would get completely destroyed. And if I fought Randy Fichtner, I'd probably get destroyed. But like Ric Flair, I'd cheat. Bad, you tell Lance if he picks the Steelers this week, live chat riots. So tune in for Lance to pick the Jets. We really need that to happen. Bad, you're not Piper until you smash a coconut over Jimmy Snuka's head. So what I'll do is I'll knock Dave with a mango in the head, and that's the best we can do. Because so Stephen Carestis, soda revoked Randy. Let's see, Michael Malley, bad, sorry buddy, you're jumping through the table. I got 50 on it. Darren Dalton says Lance has the CM Punk pipe bomb sometimes. That's pretty awesome. Snowman wants us to hit Randy with a chair. Boy, wow. And here we go. There's a good one. You're more Hacksaw Jim Duggan meets Bushwhacker meets Ravishing Rick Rude. Oh boy, for all the non-WWE fans, they're tuning out right now. But what about Jordan Berry just turns into a turnover night? He was having a great season. All of a sudden, he looks terrible. We talked about this with Duck. Had a bad game. Let's just hope it's that.
Yeah, when you have a team like this and an offense like this, you can't have these kind of special teams mistakes either. So you need everything to be working as one. It's like the offense has to complement the defense, and same with the special teams. That's you can't have 20-yard punts. It's a killer.
Ollie says Randy is not invited to his little brother's birthday party. that's I would probably like the guy if I met him. I mean, it's just. I watched WWE until The Rock stopped this. I wasn't into John Cena, says Jesse George. I tell you what, we'll do some old school wrestling shows back in the off season when we have nothing to talk about. That'd be awesome. Ryan Kellerman gets back to business with I love Banner, but needs to not play anymore because the opposing defense will blitz every time he's on the field. They kind of know what's going on when he's there. I get it. I think Zach Banner is going to be, just an asset for the team though going forward. Love this guy. Love everything about his personality. Just fantastic. But with that being said, we talked about a lot of stuff. Hey, we didn't always agree on this show. Tony, you and I with the chat room. But that's cool. That's what we do as a family. We're not always going to agree. But BTSC family always has each other's back, and I love it. And I'm really blessed to have you guys in the live chat having our back. So thank you so very much. But with that being said, Tony, take us home.
Lost a tough game last night. but you still have control of your playoff destiny. And you know, after the way the season started, who would have thought we'd be sitting here wringing our hands over whether or not the Steelers can make the playoffs? So they still have a lot of good things they can accomplish in 2019 over these last 2 weeks.
I was going to take it home, but I just saw something that kind of disturbed me and kind of made me laugh. Frank V, if they win this week, he will dress like Betty White and send a pic for us. I tell you what, I'll just take your word for it. So
hey,
that's pretty awesome.
Free country. Free country. You know, if you want to do that, you go right ahead.
You can't top that. So to quote Lance Williams, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe. And Tony, I'll let you finish this sentence. Thank you, friends, for joining us in the Hangover for our chat room discussion for a little pick me up. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. And you, my friends, you have just been
hungover. See you next week.